Hi, friends, and welcome back. On today's episode, I'm going to be doing, we'll call it a little bit of a booster shot. This is going to be a follow up to a talk that I did on manifestation. And I always say that I blend the practical and the spiritual so that you can create a life that you love. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper than I went the last time that I talked about manifestation. It's going to be a short talk, but I thought it was important to just give this little bit of an add on, or like I said, this little bit of a booster. So, in the previous video that I did on manifestation, and I'm going to link it somewhere, and it'll be up here or down below in the comments, somewhere you'll find that I did a talk about manifestation. And in that particular video, I talked about why we have to be careful when we are undergoing this process of manifestation and the spiritual aspect to it, and what we want to keep in mind when we are trying to manifest the things that we want and build the lives that we want. And all of that is okay. None of that is in violation of the spiritual process, but you just want to keep in mind the main thing. And the main thing is that you are not here to get money. You are here to develop your soul and to become one with God. And so that's kind of heavy. And I know that if you came here for manifestation, you probably ain't really trying to hear that, but that's a fact. So just hold on to that somewhere. Even as you're going through the process of manifestation, building the life that you want to never lose track of or sight of the fact that you are really a soul inside of this human form, and that your soul's purpose for you is evolution. And so you want the manifestation process to serve that particular aspect, right? You don't want to be out there just trying to get money, just trying to create wealth and do all these things without that spiritual connection, because if you do that, more times than not, you're going to find that it's just not going to be satisfying and it's not going to be long lasting. So as you go back and look at that video, you're going to hear me talk, give a little bit of a disclaimer at the beginning of the video that talks about maintaining your spiritual sight even as you manifest. Okay. So here's what I wanted to come on and talk to you about today. We look at the process of manifestation as this thing that is separate from us, more times than not elusive. I hear a lot of people, and I was this person too, and I talk about that in that video as well. Just trying to manifest, and the crap just wasn't working. I'm just going to be real with you. And so it took me a while to figure out what I was doing wrong and what pieces were missing. And again, I talk about all of that. When we think about manifestation, it's kind of something that's out there. It's kind of something that, we're putting a lot of effort in, and we're trying with all of our might to manifest the house, to manifest the man, to manifest the car. And a lot of us are walking away extremely frustrated because it just isn't working. And so let me give you this little, as I said, this little booster shot, this little piece or this little bump to what I said previously. This may help you slide yourself further into a successful manifestation process, or being someone who can readily manifest the things that you want. And again, do not forget that these things that you're going to manifest, the things that you want, are still there to serve your spiritual development. And so let me also interject a little bit of a disclaimer here, because some people think that when they're manifesting things that they want, that all of a sudden life is just going to be hunky-dory, and that's just not the case. We are here, as I said, so that our souls and spirits can evolve. We're supposed to be moving up the scale, becoming higher, moving up the level towards states of higher consciousness. And so just because you're manifesting stuff doesn't mean that that process is going to stop. You're going to look around you and things are still going to happen. When you look at your Oprahs and your Jeff Bezoses and your Mark Zuckerbergs, they are rooted, grounded, steeped in the manifestation process, but life still happens to them. I remember in the 90s, Oprah was being sued by the beef industry. So saying all that to say, just because you're a manifester and just because you're building a life that you want, the life process still has to happen, and growth is at the core of that life process. So if you're not growing, you're going to find that the stuff is just not going to satisfy you, because that is not what this whole human experience is about. It's about your growth. It's not about the stuff. So hold those two things in your mind as you go throughout this process. And I don't want to be a heavy, and I don't want to be a killjoy, but I'm just letting you know that this is what life is, and we can make it as beautiful as we want, but we still have to understand that our growth and development is at the core of all of it. And if we're not growing and developing, stuff is still going to come. Things that we don't want, stuff still is going to happen. And all the cars and all the money and all the houses, it's not going to make you feel any better. The only thing that's going to make you feel better is when you are moving up the scale and becoming your highest and best. So, having said all that, this is where we've been missing it. We're holding it out in front of us. I need to manifest. I need to get me a man. I need to get me a car. I need to get me a home. I need to get me a job. When being able to manifest really should be your natural state. And that is the piece that we are missing. We have separated ourselves from the process, from the belief that life can be joyous for us. And it can. And so we are putting all this effort into trying to get all these things that we want, instead of sitting back and relaxing in the life process and understanding that if I am on a path to becoming my highest and best self, if I am rooting out dysfunction whenever I encounter it, if I discover I have an issue with anger, am I working on that? If I discover I have an issue with slandering other people or gossiping, am I working on that? If I discover that I have a problem with being selfish, am I working on that? Because again, your process is growth. And every spiritual discipline is going to reflect that. And it's going to remind us that we are supposed to be shedding those levels of dysfunction, casting those things off of our being, and allowing our soul to rise to its highest and best. And if we are doing that process regularly, consistently, if it becomes a part of who we are, manifestation is going to be a byproduct of that. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to still have some things that you need to work on. Because as I said, that's the human experience. That's why we're here. It is a growth process. But the less of those dysfunctional areas that you have, your vibration is going to raise. If you are benevolent, if you are kind, if you are a giver, if you are a server, if you are a person who believes, if you have faith, if you have trust, you're going to find that all of those things are going to readily lend themselves directly to the manifestation process. So instead of us going in our meditation spaces, I hope you have one, and trying to do this process, which it works. I mean, it's a very murky and dirty way to do it, but it is effective. But our natural state is such that we are supposed to be living out our lives in such a way that we are peaceful and joyous and loving and kind and faithful, that we are constantly in worship, of something larger than ourselves, that we are submitting ourselves to the growth process and submitting ourselves to a higher power, that we are devoting our lives and putting our energy into becoming the best version of ourselves, when we are appreciating life for the fullness that it has to offer, when we are less critical and not complaining. When we live life like that, and I know it sounds difficult, but it's possible. You don't have to do it 100% overnight, but just start moving towards it. As you start moving towards that state of higher being, which is your true self, you've picked up all this garbage and complaining and hate and anger and being critical. You picked all that stuff up, but when you look at a kid, they don't do that. They spend their moment in joy. Their mother can spank their behind, and 5 minutes later, 5 seconds later, they're laughing and playing over in the corner with the toy. They've forgotten completely about it. It is only as we get older that we hold on to grudges, that we carry things that are burdensome, that we start to persecute people when they don't live up to our standards and to our ideals. That's stuff that we're picking up. So if you can get back to your natural state, cast all that garbage off and just say, you know what, I'm here. I want to be a being of higher consciousness. That's such a lofty word. I just want to be a good human being. How about that? I just want to be the best possible person that I can be, right? If we're doing that, we're going to find that the life process starts to open up for us more. And if we can add things onto that, like faith and trust and belief, it is God's pleasure to give good gifts to his children. If you're from the Christian discipline, I'm sure you've heard that. And so when we are living our lives in such a way, it doesn't mean that we're perfect, doesn't mean that we're trying to be the most religious people in the world. I'm not even talking about religion here. I'm talking about something much, much deeper than that. I'm talking about the very nature of who you are as a human being. You are essence. You are soul first before you are body. And if you get back to that understanding, and if you just get up every day and say, I'm going to do my best to be better than I was yesterday. I'm going to do my best to no longer get caught up in fear, jealousy. I'm going to do my best to try to be helpful and kind wherever I go. We're going to find that when you ask, it's going to be given to you. And the manifestation process really just becomes a byproduct of you living your life well. And you get to a place where you understand that when I need it, if it's for me, it's going to be there. And if it's not for me, I'm going to be okay with that too. I trust that as soon as I get there and turn the bend, something else that is even better is going to be waiting for me. And it is possible for us to shift our conditioning, which it is. It takes a little bit of work, but it's possible for us to shift our conditioning and say, you know what? I want to live my life that way. And so when I did the video previously on manifestation, I didn't really add that piece to it. I think that sometimes people just want to get in and get out. Like, what do I need to do, Tanya, to manifest? So I just want the car. I just want the man in my bed. I ain't really trying to hear all that. But as I thought about it, I thought, this is the easier way to do it. This is the easier way. You can do the process, and the process works. And like I said, just find you a space every day where you're doing it and you're being clear and you're being consistent. But I think that the much better way, and the way that the Creator intended for us to do it, is just to live our lives, to constantly be moving up the scale, to be becoming better human beings, the best human being that we can possibly be. Not perfect, right? I don't want to put that kind of pressure on people. But the trick is to just be becoming more, better than you were yesterday, right? Controlling more thoughts today than I did yesterday. Controlling my tongue more today than I did yesterday. Being kinder, being more loving. Pressing into my potential, seeing what's possible for me. Casting off fear. Dreaming the big dream. Setting the lofty goal. if we do that and we have a set of beliefs and faith that says, I trust it. I trust the process. I trust myself. I trust my higher being. I trust the Creator. I trust that what I need is going to be given to me. Manifestation just starts to happen. You know, it's just going to be there when you need it. And so I wanted to give you that piece. I hope you go back and watch that video on manifestation and kind of maybe even compare, contrast to what I've said today. Both processes work, but this booster shot, to me, is a much, much better way of getting you there.